Back 30 years ago, I was putting together, you know, hot bands, four-piece things I could have put together and did put together. And I went out and did shows, that were basically me singing, Doc Watson, Bill Monroe, old bluegrass standards, old Americana standards, plus, I was doing some Beatles and some Lightfoot and Bob Dylan and anything under the sun, but it was all anchored to me as a guitar player, as a flat picker, right? And I mean, I was doing that 30 years ago, and these bands that I had and the people I used to work with, they were hot, man. And we would go off, on tangents on stage and jam one tune out for an hour or whatever, like not an hour, but I'd make sure everybody got ample solo work in the band. And yeah, that was 30 years ago. And I couldn't make it. Nobody was interested. Nobody. I was just like, okay, well, it's not country. Okay. It's not rock. It's not folk. We don't know what it is, but we don't want it. So you flash forward 30 years, and you get this guy, this young kid, he's 29 years old, puts together these hot bands, and he does a mixture of everything from Doc Watson to the Beatles to Sting to the Grateful Dead, and surrounded himself with great players, and he bases the whole band on his guitar playing, and suddenly, voila, you got Billy Strings. And the difference is, I'm fixated on Billy Strings these days, which is odd for me. I don't usually pay that much attention to other artists, even if they're fabulous artists. I just don't get invested in players as like I did when I was younger, because when I was younger I was invested in the masters of the music as Billy is, right? And so I didn't pay much attention to my contemporaries. I did. I mean, I loved what they did, and I was appreciative of what they did. But it wasn't like I was going to sit around and study what they did, because they were in the same boat as I am, right? But when I look at Billy Strings and what he's accomplished in the last 6 months, putting a record out that went number one on the country, debuted at number one on the country charts, and the world music charts too, I think. And then he wins a Grammy. And then he goes back to his elementary school and gives 200 students each student, 200 students, he gives them a brand new acoustic guitar. Not an electric guitar, not a piece of crap guitar. These were nice Fender acoustics, nice mid-range to high-end Fender acoustics. Gives them 200 students a brand new guitar. Shows up in his 2 tour buses. He's got millions of dollars in the bank. He just won a Grammy. His concerts are selling out arenas. And I did the same thing as he's doing 30 years ago. You'd think I'd be pissed off. And also I'm only one guy. There's 100 other guys who were doing their own thing 30 years ago and got completely rejected by the industry. And you'd think we'd look at young Billy Strings and go, well, that son of a bitch. How the hell why did he pass through the gate and not us? I don't feel that way at all. As a matter of fact, I feel exactly the opposite. I look at what Billy Strings has done and what he's continuing to do, and on that goes, and I feel like he has completely vindicated me. He has struck a near crippling blow against the industry that shut guys like me out for 30 years. He came along, and just what he was doing was so good and so palatable to his audience that he bypassed the industry. He bypassed the gatekeepers. He bypassed everything and just said, well, this is great music and people love it, so fuck you. And it worked. He got a #1 album on the country charts, and he's not a country artist at all. But there's a qualifier to that. He's actually accumulated, or I should say, he's actually accomplished. He's actually accomplished something that hasn't been done in this industry for 70 years. And that thing is, the last person that was basically playing Americana in a string band ended up on the charts was Bill Monroe in the late 40s and early 50s. And then you also had your Jimmy Martins and your Stanley Brothers and your Jim and Jesse's and your Osborne Brothers. These people were on jukeboxes everywhere in the world. They were hit makers. They made money, they sold records, and they were playing bluegrass and string music, acoustic music. Well, that all died in 1956 with the advent of Elvis Presley, and then the Beatles, and then rock and roll, and then the whole industry shifted away from these people, and they haven't been seen really on the charts since. The only person that's ever, that I know of, well, actually there's two, I suppose. But the biggest one is Alison Krauss, who has never veered really away from the idea of having a string band as the core of her career. She has done incredibly well. She's won 29 Grammys. She's actually won more Grammys than any other person in history. I think there's somebody ahead of her now by 1 or 2. But she, at one time, had won more Grammys than any artist in history. And now, mind you, that's because her category, Bluegrass Recording of the Year or whatever, is not populated. There's nobody to compete with her. There just isn't. That band, Union Station, and her, they're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. So who's going to compete with her, right? But then she's also delved into things, with Robert Plant and different duets she's done, and her voice has been heard on country radio with country in a country setting. And the other group that did well with it, but still it was tainted by the Nashville thing, was the Dixie Chicks. They were a string band idea that was electrified, right? And produced in a country manner in the Nashville way. And they did fantastic until they became politicized. But the idea that a 4-piece bluegrass band, upright bass, guitar, mandolin, and banjo, or maybe fiddle, or whatever Billy uses most of the time, I'm not exactly sure what if he keeps the same type of personnel for all his shows, but you're talking about a guy that's going out with a 4-piece bluegrass band, picking guitar like Doc Watson, and Dan Crary, and Norman Blake, and Tony Rice to a certain extent, and all this Americana, and he's suddenly a superstar. Well, I think it's fantastic. It completely justifies everything that I tried to do and failed to succeed 30 years ago. And I'm not as I said, I'm not the only one. There's hundreds of us who could have well been a household name and probably should have been a household name and deserved to be and had the talent to be a household name. But the industry wouldn't let us in. And then on top of that, there's all the personal, internal reasons that people fail. One of my biggest ones was my hatred of authority. And not just authority. I don't even know if that's accurate. I think it's more my hatred of stupidity, which is usually found in people of authority in this business. They're fucking idiots. They don't know what's going on. They don't know anything. You can put great music in front of them and they just sit there like mushrooms. They don't know what's going on. I've seen the blank look on their faces. You know, when they're confronted with something that's slightly different and awesome at the same time, and they just sort of sit there with this confused blank look, and they don't get it. They just don't get it. They're only there for one reason. They know how to crunch numbers. And they know how to follow a norm and a standard and an established set of parameters inside the industry. That's why they're there. They're not there because they're connoisseurs of great music. And that kind of stupidity pissed me off so badly. I mean, I've met so many people at the high end of this industry that couldn't even tell you who the fuck Doc Watson even is. Or what's the difference between like flat picking a guitar and finger picking it. They don't even know that. They just don't know anything. They're just there to fill a suit and sit behind a desk and crunch numbers and do what the rest of the industry appears to be succeeding at. They just follow that trend. That's it. And that kind of stupidity held me back. Because I would come up against it, and I would see these people, and they'd try to throw me a line of bullshit. The one most often thrown was, well, if you altered what you do but this little bit, right? If you change this and this. No, I'm not changing anything. I know this is good. I know this record is good. I've played it for people. I've played it for other musicians. I've listened to it myself 1,000 times. I didn't just shit this on the floor and pick it up and give it to you. I spent years of my life developing what I do to this point to get it captured on this recording. And I've paid tribute in this recording to all my heroes and all my, you know what I mean? Like it's when you run up against things like that in this business, there's no wonder why I, and guys just like me, all fell afoul of the industry because we looked at it and went, no, fuck you. I'm not changing what I do for you. Who the hell are you? I didn't see you anywhere when I was learning to play music. I don't know you as a guitar player. I don't know you as anything. You're a suit. And you're in my fucking way. I have to go through you to expand my audience and my bank account and my life. You hold my life in your hands and you're not qualified to hold it. This is a serious, serious thing in this industry that all artists come up against. And again, Billy Strings, he bypassed him. He must have. There was no other way to do what he's done, except he just ignored them and did what he did. And the right person in the industry came along and said, yeah, I'll sign you. You know, a Rick Rubin came along, or a Chet Atkins came along, or any number of these people down through history that made sure that the underdog got his shot, right? How many fantastic artists were created because of those people? Chet Atkins gave us people like Waylon Jennings and Patsy Cline and Tommy Emmanuel and all kinds of people came through those gatekeepers who were not only great business people but fantastic musicians who could tell what they were seeing. And somebody came along for Billy Strings like that and said, yeah, I'm signing you and we're doing it. And those people are so rare that, that's one of the reasons Billy is where he is right now. He found the right person at the right time, where the rest of us did not. Also, obviously, we have to take into consideration that the consumption of music by the public is not the same as it was. We have YouTube, we have Spotify, we have the internet. We didn't have the internet 30 years ago. We just didn't. It wasn't at play. So that's another reason. But I can go through all of that over and over again, but it just fascinates me, and I'm so proud of him. He's 29 years old, and he's a superstar, and he deserves to be one. Finally, a guy that is famous who deserves to be where he is. It's unbelievable. It's relatively unheard of in today's music industry. I mean, there are some, but it's like the 5%. It's 5%, maybe 5, maybe 4. I don't know, but it's so refreshing to look around and see that is going on right now in the timeline. So this leads me to the second, or like the other side of the coin, when it comes to people who gain immense success. The other day I was reading an interview with Billy Strings, and he mentioned that a bunch of things. He said that the first thing that caught my eye was that he's seeing a therapist he regularly, apparently, and that he came from, he was a skater kid when he was young, and he came from an environment of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and he didn't do well in school and blah blah blah, and he had a hard childhood, but part of it was obviously his involvement with illicit drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And you look at that story and you think, okay, wait a minute. He's just achieved the impossible, right? Literally, he's achieved the impossible. What he's done inside the music industry is relatively unheard of for his genre and type of music. And then if you step back a couple steps, you start to see all these people that frankly we've lost to success, or as it turned out, excess. We lost Jimi Hendrix, we lost Janis Joplin, we lost Elvis Presley, we lost John Belushi, we lost even guys like Anthony Bourdain, like a world famous television personality, whatever. You see all these people, dozens of them, Kurt Cobain, another one, Marilyn Monroe. I could go on and on and on of people who had everything. They had everything. They had money. They had fame. They had success. Everything that they touched turned to gold. What fucks that up for them bad enough that they let an addiction kill them? Or they just eat a bullet. They just take their own life. Why? Why in the name of God? And the first thing, right, that I say to myself when I see someone like Billy Strings talking about that he's not happy. He is happy, but he's not happy. There's problems in his life that he can't deal with. If I woke up tomorrow morning and was in his shoes in my life, there'd be no end to the happiness that would be abounding all around me. I came from the same thing as he did. I came from alcoholism, social living on welfare, just horrendous child abuse, sexual predator, like pedophilia. I went through all that shit, and why would I just don't understand why people let that happen to them. When they achieve success, there's something missing. What is it? And I'm not stupid. I realize that there's mental health issues. There's people that have self-esteem issues. There's people that have they have everything they want in their career and their life and their bank account and their world, but they can't find a mate, perhaps, that they need. They need someone in their life, or they don't feel worthy of being where they are, or the pressures of fame cause them to retreat into abuse, substance abuse of any kind. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm cold-hearted. I don't know, but I just don't see it. I don't see where it makes any sense whatsoever. What I tend to see in these cases is that, and I used to run into it all the time because I hung around people who were mega famous. And I used to look at Marty Stewart was a great example. Marty was a good guy, a great musician. He was a friend to me in different times in my life. But he was messed up. He had a problem with addiction and alcohol and pills and all these things. This is a man who got to work with some of the greatest artists of all time. He played mandolin for Lester Flatt until he died. He played for Johnny Cash for 8 years. He married into John's family. He went on to become a superstar in the country music field, even though he never had a ton of number one hits. He's now considered one of the main elder statesmen of country music and bluegrass music. But yet, he still fights these demons. Why? And I used to ask him. One time I actually said to him, I can't understand why you're not more thankful for all the things that you have, and why other people are the same way. You have achieved and been given on a silver platter in some cases every accolade and every advantage that I want and that other musicians like me want and are looking for and striving and working and developing and sacrificing every single day to get 1/10 of the credibility and success that you have. How can you not look around and see that you are miles above other people, and that how could you possibly squander that by getting stoned and drunk and taking your life in your hands, and running your car through into a brick wall in the McDonald's drive-through in Nashville? Like, that actually happened. You get arrested. Like, I just couldn't put my head around it, and I still can't to this day. I can't. I think my theories on this are all a bit half-baked, because I have an understanding of how difficult it is to be famous, because I've watched people go through it. But I also come at it from the same angle that I've been speaking of. If I was offered that opportunity to be in those shoes, I would take every advantage of it. For good, not destructive purposes, not self-destructive. I would be, now, and I understand that type of fame is hard work. It is. Even my level of popularity in my little career, it's not easy. It's a hard job. I got to tour, I got to travel, I got to write, I got to record, but it's my job. I chose it. It chose me. I didn't choose it, actually. It chose me. I am a musician. That's what I do for a living. Always have, always will, till the day I die. And I love it. I don't begrudge. I don't look at anything I have to do as a musician and resent doing it. I don't. If things about the industry or my business or my career or whatever bother me, I keep them away from me. right? That's how I do it. If I'm not comfortable in big crowds of people, I stay away from them. I make my connections on the road with strangers on my own terms, and and so I can get a feel for who they are and what they're like before I start glad handing everybody in the fucking room. If you're not comfortable with those things and you're naturally shy, that's how you do it. I like to drink alcohol, but I have no desire to sit here at my house and get drunk every day. Right? Why would I? And I have a lot of reason to. I've fought to be in this business for 40 years, and I still basically live hand to mouth. I live at a higher level of hand to mouth than some people, but I still have to fight to keep my bank account full enough to keep everything paid for. All of the infrastructure that I need to do what I do. Should I be struggling like that after 40 years? Probably not. I should be a millionaire, but I just never got the break. I never got the break. And millions of guys, well, not millions, but hundreds and thousands of people never get the break. And then when I look around and I see somebody like Billy Strings who has done the impossible, and yet somehow inside he might not be as happy as he should be, I feel real bad for him. If I had him in the room with me right now, I would look at him right in the face and say, listen, buddy, because I had to do this to myself. Or if I hadn't done this to myself, I may not have gotten as far in this business as I have. I would look him right in the face and say to him, listen, everything that's in the past is dead. It's gone. It can't be changed. And it only affects you if you think about it. There's no point in thinking about it because it no longer exists. It only existed while it was happening. And you can allow those events to manifest themselves in your life as present occurrences, or you can leave it where it belongs, dead and gone in the past. And the same thing goes for the future. There's no promise of it. You have no idea what it's going to be. It doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is right now, you are a superstar. In a field of music that's not meant to be at that echelon, never was, except 70 years ago. And not only that, but you are holding the standard up higher than anyone ever has for guys like me, guys like, I don't care, hundreds of us, thousands of us that play what you play, do what you do, and have done it all our lives. You made it. You made it through the gateposts, past the guardians, past the assholes, and you've achieved something that none of us could achieve, even though we've been trying to do it for decades. You did it in 10 years. What could you possibly need therapy for? Right? Don't do that to yourself. Don't make your past live with you day to day. Right? And that's easier said than done. But when you have the level of success that he's achieved, you need to start doing that. Someone mentioned to me a couple of days ago that they were worried about Billy Strings because his type of situation often ends up in tragedy due to, substance abuse, depression, whatever the case may be. I don't get it. I still don't get it, and I never will. And I would tell him, if I saw him face to face, he's got nothing to be depressed about. He doesn't. You can be sad about things, but you don't have to take them to heart so much that they affect your entire life, your entire existence. He's done it. He's made it. He should enjoy himself. And he doesn't need drugs, and he doesn't need alcohol or any of those things to do that. If you want to do it a little bit for fun, that's fine. But and he's not the only one. I could look, as I said at the start of this video, there's been dozens of world-class people that have died because it wasn't enough. What they had wasn't enough. And I don't think it's anything like greed or anything like that. It's that age-old question. Is this all there is? Right? Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? If you do get to the top, the number one chart position, the sold out 30,000 people in arenas, the endless tour schedule, the endless interviews, the endless everything. Where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? Well, a lot of things in the industry and life teach us that the only way to go from there is down. And that's bullshit. You don't have to go down. You just have to find your place there, because you're going to go buy it. Obviously, you're going to go buy it when you're as famous and doing as well as he is. You're going to go buy it, probably way buy it. And then you'll relax down to the place where everything's hunky-dory. It might be hectic. It might be out of control, but you're in control of that, really, by deciding what you want to do with your life, how you want to spend your time. Time is the most important thing. All money does is buy time. Time to do things that you want to do. So there you go. You get up and you find that spot and you stay on that level. You find your plateau and you stay there. You don't worry about going back up as high as you were before or falling off the edge. All you have to do is just be happy with what you have achieved. Something that people got to understand. When somebody achieves the level of fame that Billy Strings has, it will last him the rest of his life. There is no way, unless he falls apart himself, that what he's achieved is going to go away. I know this because I had limited success with one album 27 years ago. 25 years ago. Well, 27. And it's still sustaining my legend, my thing. That one album that hardly did anything really has cemented my future, because I can ride all of the friends and fans I made off of that one recording. I've just grown that. Man, he's got millions of fans and millions of followers. He never has to fall off the edge. He doesn't. And I think that's what a lot of people who get to his level think. They think, okay, is this all there is? When is the other shoe going to fall? When am I going to lose all of this? And I don't believe that any of that's even remotely important, because you aren't going to lose it unless you cut one of your hands off by accident, or you get in, or you have a terrible disease, or you're not going to lose it. Just keep doing what you're doing and enjoy it. If the money's piling up right now, let it pile. You might need it later, right? So I don't understand. There's definitely and I don't like, it's not sour grapes. That's not what it is or how it feels. It just feels like I'm pretty sure that I and other people like me could handle it better. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a stupid thing to say too, because you don't know until you're there. But because I've been so close to it so many times with other people and see how they deal with all of it, I know personally I could. There's no way that being that level of fame would cause me any distress. Maybe I'm just a different kind of personality than most people. I don't know. But it's a fascinating thing to look at. It's a fascinating thing to look at such a unique artist as Billy, who is going through the same type of problems that many people down through history have encountered when they achieved their ultimate stride. A lot of people have not survived it, and at least he is admitting that he's going to therapy. He's doing what he has to do to keep his head healthy. And I hope he continues to do that. And I hope he doesn't fall prey to you know, the excesses that are available when you have money and people around you that are going to be yes men and that sort of thing. I hope he doesn't. He seems like a really grounded, no bullshit kid, and I hope that that's what happens. But I'm telling you, it's almost like you must be prepared to accept fame and success. If you're not prepared to accept it for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't all you thought it would be, it didn't fix your emotional problems, it didn't fix your self-esteem, or it didn't do whatever, you have to be ready to accept it. And if you're not, I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. And if you look back at all these people like Elvis and Janis and Jimi Hendrix and all these dozens of people who have either killed themselves or committed to a slow death through substance abuse, you wonder what happened to them. Why were they that unhappy that they didn't care if they lived or died? Why did it just become so unpleasant to be them? And then you wonder, why have I fought my entire life to be at that level? Was I stupid in doing that? Was that a dumb move to spend my whole life trying to get to the point where I was living in a mansion with the Memphis Mafia and whatever, and had access to anything I wanted in the world at the ring of a bell or a phone call? What would have happened to me? I wonder. I might have ate myself to death. Died of pizza overdose. I think sometimes a lot of it comes down to the old saying, you should never look a gift horse in the mouth. Right? When you achieve something, especially in the music business, but I'm sure this can be, spread across all of life in general. When you achieve something and you're getting something for it, when you're getting the money and the notoriety and the credibility from your own hard work, you should never cheapen that by looking for more, whatever that is, you got to take success for what it is. It is a thing that changes the way you live your life. It often, unfortunately, changes the way you look at other people, because you don't know if those people are around you because you're famous or because you're you. That's unfortunately, one of the pressures of success. And you kind of just got to go with the flow and be happy inside your own little world. And if I could say anything about knowing fame and knowing famous people and seeing how it is on the inside of that world, I think the biggest thing that people discount who are famous, right? And I look through, maybe this is the bottom line, right? Maybe this is the thing that makes me think I can handle it better. When I look at that kind of success, all I see is freedom. I see freedom. There's a level, because I have it myself in my own career. I'm very pleased where I am because I have freedom. I have the freedom to write what I want, with who I want, when I want. I have the freedom to make records anytime I want. I have the freedom to sit here and, if I want to sit here for a month and work on one instrumental, I can do that. I have the freedom to turn gigs down if I don't want to do them. I have the freedom to decide the path of my own career. I have the freedom to speak to certain people inside my circle who are trusted allies. And I know I will get an honest answer from them every single time, or I will get assistance from them every single time, because I was very careful and diligent and burned a lot of bridges, actually, to get to the point where everyone in my circle will be 100% honest with me. So when I look at that level of fame, I see even more freedom. And it's still freedom that I have. One of the other things that I love about my freedom is my freedom to help other artists. I don't have anything to lose by helping a young artist make their first great record, or promoting them to somebody in the industry that I trust that could help them, or any number of things. And that takes us right back to square one because of what Billy Strings did last week. Going back to his school and giving all those children guitars. That's freedom. That is a massive amount of freedom. Not only is it financial freedom, because obviously, he just gave away, $150,000 worth of guitars. He had the money for that. He had the time. He had the wherewithal. He had the headspace available to think about how to do it and then you do it and get it done. That kind of freedom is priceless. And that may be the most important thing about success, is it gives you freedom. And if you don't look at that freedom every single day and realize how lucky you are to have it, whether it be at the level I have, or the level he has, or the level that Elvis had, you're not going to appreciate your life. We could look at, and I'm a huge Elvis fan. I sit here every Monday and film this, and I'm looking at a beautiful giant picture of Elvis on the wall. He's sitting in his army fatigues, playing a guitar in a hotel room in the early 60s, right? He was a beautiful man. He was an incredible artist. I don't think he realized just how free he was. He could do anything he wanted, anytime he wanted. And yet, he sequestered himself away inside a house in a jet plane and a limousine with a bunch of guys around him that protected him from the great unknown of the public, right? I don't believe any of that shit. I think that's a lame excuse to sit in a fucking mansion and kill yourself with prescription drugs and food. I just don't believe any of that shit. If I had had his money and fame, I would have traveled the world. I would have been, you know what I mean? He could have done anything he wanted to in life. And he did have the freedom to give and help people, and he did do that. But he didn't appreciate his own freedom. He didn't even see the level of it, I don't think. And I think that may be the problem. That may, after I've actually, from filming this video this morning, I may have answered all my own questions. This could be the issue, is that when you're at that level, or any level, any high echelon in this business, you see the negative before you see the positive when it comes to freedom. You know what I mean? That might be the problem. Because abuse of substance and whatnot, basically it becomes an escape. Well, what are you trying to escape? Why would you try to escape something that gives you everything you want, and the freedom to do anything you want, and the freedom to help people, and the freedom to make a difference, and the freedom to keep creating what put you there in the first place? Maybe that's the issue. Maybe we're just not aware of how well off we are, any of us. You know what I mean? And life imitates art and vice versa. When I think about that, it sort of rings true. A lot of people that I know who are unhappy, or unless it's caused by a severe mental illness, like which sometimes it's not. It's just people not being thankful enough, not being grateful enough, not looking at their own life and going, well, I could do all these things if I wanted to. I have the freedom to do that. And a lot of people I know don't have the freedom to do this, and this, but I could do these things. Or I get to do this thing every day of my life that signifies my freedom in the universe, right? That I can do these things and other people don't get to because they have to work too hard, or they don't even know it's there, or whatever the case may be. Or if you're in the worst situation of your life, there's still a way to look at it that's positive. And there's no way around that. If you pshaw that idea, you're doomed to stay where you are in your dark room with no windows. Right? And that might be the bottom line. We need to be happier, and we need to be more thankful, and we need to be more grateful for all the things that we have. And when you're at the level of Billy Strings, you should definitely get up every morning and go, I didn't know I was going to be here, but I am, so what can I do today that's going to not only make me feel better, but make somebody else feel better? Because it's so easy when you're at that level, And he's doing that. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that all the guys like me out there, we now have a representative in our field of music, in our lifelong careers, and it makes all of it seem worthwhile when you see somebody like him, even at his young age, achieve that kind of fame so quickly. 10 years is quick. Well, shouldn't say that. 10 years is usually the norm for making it where he is. Some people take a lot longer, and some people take less. But it's so nice to just see one of us break out. And that's how I feel about him. And I hope he's going to be okay. He probably never see this, probably doesn't give a shit who I am, and that doesn't bother me in the least. But I hope he's going to be okay, and I hope he finds that place where he doesn't need to worry about, going to therapy, fighting off the urge to do whatever the case may be. He's got the world in the palm of his hands, and I think all of us who realize how difficult what he did is, we're all rooting for him. And as we were for all these people that we lost, I hope things are different for him. I think they are. I'm not making any predictions of doom and gloom, but I just hope he finds his plateau and sits there for the rest of his life, like I have, and like a lot of these guys have done. He deserves that. Everybody who works as hard as he obviously has deserves to coast once they get where they want to go. Just take off the emergency brake, take your foot, put the clutch in, and let her go down the hill. Or down the highway, or wherever. What do you think, Bean? You think I should play a tune on the guitar? You think I should play the guitar? You think I should play the guitar? What do you think? Should I? Freedom.